We are very excited that you've chosen to join us again for another one of our Performance Matters podcast series. And in this summer, we're featuring some of the remarkable insights that we took away from our 2024 Five Moments of Need Summit. And we are honored to be joined in this episode by the remarkable Donna Audritsh, who's going to share her journey to becoming an effective Five Moments of Need designer, as well as strategist and implementer of the methodology. We hope you enjoy and are also participating in the rest of this series. Let us know what you think. Here we go. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another Performance Matters podcast series. Bob Mosher here, one of your many hosts in this series. We're so happy that you've joined us yet again for the summer series that we set up a bit ago on some of the findings from our 2024 Five Moments We Need Summit, where we got together a bunch of topic areas in the journey to implement and had challenges relative to those. And today we are remarkably honored, as we have been in the past, to be joined by a remarkable Five Moments learning theorist, strategist, and designer. Donna, you want to say hello, Donna, introduce yourself a little bit, even though we may know you from past ones. You want to give us a little bit of your background?
Hi, Bob. I'm Donna Audritsh, and I'm a consultant with Apply Synergies, as you know. I have been in the L&D world for a long time, but I came to this world as an accidental career. I was not initially trained as an ISD. So I feel like in this topic that we're talking about today, I have a little bit less unlearning to do than some people who come from a traditional academic background in ISD. I was trained as an analyst. I spent many, many years in L&D, mostly as a consultant, a contractor. So I don't think I've ever been part of a formal internal L&D department. So I have always worked as a contractor or a consultant to both government and corporate clients. So my focus has always been on good analysis, knowing what the purpose of what I'm doing is, knowing my audience, understanding where they're coming from, and how they'll use that information. I'm also a stickler for clarity and clear writing. So those are kind of my backgrounds in terms of, I think they are skill sets that feed well into ISD, but I'm not formally trained as an ISD. So I was given an opportunity to take the Five Moments of Need certificate course in a job that I had before I came to Apply Synergies, and it just clicked for me. It made perfect sense. It kind of clicked with the same kind of questions I was always asking is, why do we need to know this? And what are you going to do with this information? So my very first project was challenging in that the client that I was given to work with for my certificate course was really not open to change. And he was not open to trying something new. And so I think this whole concept of, like having to make this mindset shift, I came at it from there. And it didn't ever occur to me to not do my homework and not be a good student. So I kind of pushed it through anyway and reverse engineered a lot of things. And I used my own analytical skills to get there. But so that's kind of like the background of how I came to where I am now.
Brilliant. It's interesting because in the L&D, we use the word analysis a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, Donna, being schooled in L&D professionally myself, the skills you mentioned as an analyst are not really a part of our pedigree as an industry. We do analysis like ADDIE and such from a design perspective, but managing the analysis, true analysis of need and outcome and performance are a bit out of our scope professionally because we jump right to deliverable. And so we view analysis as the sitting down and drawing information out, which is an element of that. And there's a mindset change, I think, in that experience for some SMEs who might be versed in the other. But really, I really appreciate the true analytical background that you come from and what you were taught to deliver there. So let's dig a bit into this mindset, because the topic of today is the making the mindset shift to performance, which always has been such an irony to me. And obviously it came, as you said, it came naturally to you. I mean, like, isn't that what we're supposed to do? Isn't that L&D's calling and why someone should even walk in our office? The irony is, and I don't know where it got to where it is in some cases, but we've wandered a bit from, I don't know if the means inverted the ends, with it, we just assumed training would get performance, or if we trained on the right thing or the SME informed us enough, that would then get us performance somewhere. But take a little deeper for us into this mindset idea. I think you have a really refreshing view on it. as opposed to many people view it candidly kind of negatively as like heavy lifting
Mm,
and assume the glass is half empty,
mm.
this kind of thing. Share a little bit about how you take a look at that from an energy perspective and other things.
So I think the shift that you're talking about making is, and I thought what you said was very astute about we kind of got lost along the way. Like I think we got a little bit lost in our own ways of approaching learning
Mm,
objectives and things like that, and analyzing content, and kind of like lost sight of what is the reason why we're doing this in the first place. And
hmm
also what I think that as instructional design became an academic pursuit, it's easy to make it an academic practice, and which maybe is great if you are designing for
mm,
academia, but we're not. We're designing for corporations or government organizations, and they have things that they need to get done. So I feel like this a mindset shift as we move from traditional, what we're calling traditional training approaches, to a performance first mindset. It's very real. And I think it's mostly a shift from analyzing and organizing around the content and knowledge and topics to analyzing and organizing. It's the same verbs, right? Around
hmm
performance and tasks and the workflow. So it's not that we're doing a task differently, but that our nexus is different. We're kind of
I love that.
organizing around the workflow. So I think even when the approach makes total sense to people, and you see people who come through the certificate program where this it just clicks, they're like, of course, like this makes sense. Like why wouldn't we do this way? This is what I want to do. This is what I've been waiting to hear all my life, right?
hmm
I think even for people that it comes easily, there is still a shift from this is not the way we've been trained to get there.
mm,
So it makes sense where we're trying to go, but we're trying to make a shift in terms of how we're trying to get there. And so this learning, I feel like sometimes we think about it as not learning as a end into itself, but learning as a means to an
mm,
end. And I think one of the problems with thinking about it that way is that we also lose sight of the fact that the learning actually happens better if you do it this way, right?
yeah.
If you are teaching people things in the workflow, in the context that they are actually doing them, and you're allowing them to access it where it makes most sense and teaching it to them in the same way that they see it every day, they are learning better. So it's really not a learning versus performance.
Mm,
It's the if the performance focus actually helps the learning also. So I think so what does it look like when we have this mindset shift? A lot of us have experienced it. You have this like aha moment, or like, oh, wow, that works so much better. And now once you get through that process of the certificate course and you've done a project that way, it's really hard to look at content that a SME gives you another way. It's like you just can't look at it any other way. And
mm, mm,
so it's kind of a transformation that happens inside. And I feel like any kind of a transformation that we see as something that's positive, we want other people to experience it too. So like we're really enthusiastic. We're like, this is great. This is like this is how everybody should be thinking. This is how we all should be approaching it. And we find ourselves wanting to change how other people think.
mm,
And you know what
mm.
happens when you try to change how people think? It doesn't usually work very well, right? You can't change
Yep.
other people's minds. And so we get resistance. And it's not, I don't believe that it's always resistance to the ideas that we're putting out there. It's resistance to change itself. This is
Yep.
not the way we've always done it. I'm scared. I don't understand. I don't like change. All of those kind of normal things that happen when people resist change. And I think somewhere along the lines, maybe we have equated that normal resistance to change with something that is unique about the ideas that we're bringing. And
Mm.
I don't think that that's necessarily the case.
I love, as I'm listening to you, the idea about that it can be a positive, and it's something to help guide people through in a powerful, positive way. And in talking to them about their work and what they do and not forcing the deliverable. I wonder if that's where some of the anxiousness comes from, frankly, is that, or where the means flip for the ends was that because so many walk into our office and the first ask is the deliverable, even before the content sometimes,
Mhm.
that we get a little bit anxious around having to drive towards or that being the ends
Mhm.
versus the means. And it really helped me relax when I let the deliverable go in some of
Right.
the earlier analysis, right? And
Mhm.
and and let the deliverable follow the analysis
And the
of
need.
what and the need. I love
Mhm.
that. And the need of what the performance was. Yeah. So I do want to talk a little bit about the obstacles and the energy thing. So Donna, to the idea of the lift and sometimes the negativity, frankly, that comes from
Mhm.
the anticipation and assuming square peg round hole here, there's a real energy and attention given to that.
Yes.
Sometimes exhausting,
Mhm.
frankly, that might even not serve us well out of the chute. It's almost anticipate negative, get negative, if you will,
Yes.
kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
I do like the way you talk about this idea of energy flow and making that change you described a moment ago, maybe a bit more natural, easier, less resistant. Give us a little bit more on what you're thinking around that.
So I think we talked before about that it's an old adage where attention goes, energy flows. I mean, people in
Mm,
meditation use it, life coaches use it. Basically, like if you're focused, what you're focused on is, that's where your energy's going. And so I use this analogy a lot because I learned this in a very physical way, kayaking down the river, that if you're kayaking down the river and there is a big rock in the middle of the river and you're focused on not running into the rock, you are going to run into the rock. You better be wearing a helmet because you can't keep your focus there. Your focus has to be on where you're going. Where's the smooth water that you want to be in, and not you can't ignore it. You have to know that the rock is there and acknowledge it, but you can't focus on it. And so I
mm,
feel like we've done that sometimes with this mindset shift. And like you said, if you go into something with this sense of, I'm going to have to convince them of something that's not what they want, and they're going to ask me for training, and I'm going to try to give them something else, and it's like, it becomes like a rock in our path, and we get obsessed about it. Like, do we go over it? Do we go around it? Do we go under it? Do we go through it? Like, how do we convince this person that they really need something other than what they're asking us for? And like you said, if we focus more on where do we want to go, and we start with the right questions. Why are you coming to me now? What is it? What is the problem that is driving your ask? And what is the performance solution or the business solution that you
mm.
are looking for? Not the solution, but what is the problem that you're trying to solve?
Right.
What would be success for you?
Mm,
And like, no
mm.
business person is going to tell you that success for me is going to be that we have 30 people in the classroom, 3 times a year. Like, no business person is going to tell you that that's what success looks like. And so that that's the part of the river we should be aiming for. And I think that
Mm.
sometimes we tend to get fixated on the kind of fear of the resistance becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I'm
Oh, I
not
love
saying
that.
we ignore it. Everybody that's made this mindset shift recognizes that. You hear people all the time saying, I can't look at it any other way. But I
Yep.
don't think that we need to focus on the fact that not everyone has come on this journey with us, because some people don't need the mindset shift in order for us to help them get there. And some people are not going to make it no matter what you do. And like those people, it doesn't matter. Like, don't waste your energy there. Put
Yep.
your energy where people can see the value of what we're bringing to the table.
So let's dig deeper into these people. We tend to run into three groups. See, I just used run into, didn't I, with my rock? We tend to want to get this. We tend to want to take the following three groups into the smooth water. How's that? And I love that, frankly, analogy heading into here because I think in talking through these, that is how you get them there, right? And obviously, the line of businesses whom we serve,
Mhm.
they are the client, be it the people asking for the whatever it is, training or whatever, then their reports would take, or maybe, or even they're a part of that group. We've historically, and this may get back to your idea about whether we should worry about the difference or not, but we've through our actions and our deliverables, we've kind of taught them that training equals performance. That if they come in our office, the deliverable, of course, is a training thing because that's kind of what we do, and there's a security in that. There's an expectation in that. So how do we, with this group, And you also think, and you also said that they may be one of the easiest groups to bring along because in the end, it is what they want. How do we get permission to create something different? How do we let them give us that grace to maybe run a different kind of deliverable or maybe an additional deliverable in this case?
So, I mean, I think you put it well that like I think the business people are already looking to solve business problems, and we are the ones who have trained them that these traditional learning solutions are the answer to their problem. And we are the ones as L&D community who have not partnered with them to be part of the business, but to kind of given them the idea that if you have a problem with people's performance, the answer is training.
Mm.
And so I think in a lot of ways, like we're in our own way, and I think we need to let go of that. I mean, I think I've talked to project managers that don't know anything about L&D and told them, like, oh, I got this great new methodology and here's what we're doing. And this is, like we're focusing on the things that people do and blah, blah, blah. And I've gotten some like kind of incredulous looks like, isn't that what training is supposed to do? Isn't that what L&D is supposed to be doing, is to help people
Mm.
do their jobs better? And yes, it is absolutely what we should be doing. And so let's start doing it and not focus on the fact that maybe we went astray and maybe we haven't been doing such a good job at that. But
Yep.
but like I said, like shift our focus. We need to acknowledge that things that we've tried in the past, it's not that they haven't worked. They've worked to do something different maybe, but
Right.
they haven't achieved what we wanted them to achieve. And the line of business is needing more and more for L&D to step up and help them meet whatever their goals are. People's lives are changing, people's roles are changing. Information changes so fast that people can't have access to it fast enough. And so when you talk about getting permission to do something different, I honestly don't think that most people in the line of business care how we get there.
Mm.
I don't
Hmm.
think they care as much as we think they do.
Yeah.
I think that where they might start to care is if you start to demand more money or more manpower or more time to get, those are the
Sure.
things they care about. So to answer those things and not to set it up as, I know you're going to resist this because of X, Y, and Z, and here's my answer, but to just start from here's where we want to go. And we do have answers. We have a cost justification tool that, and frankly, I don't really like that word justification because it suggests that we have something to justify. And
Yeah.
so, but we do have this tool that helps us to show how what we're going to do, it makes financial sense. And the issue of how much SME time it takes to do one solution over another, that's an age-old L&D issue
Yep.
forever. And, I think that's just part of making sure that we are partners with the line of business to say, we want what you want. We want people to do this job better so that you can have fewer errors or make more money or do it faster or whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. So I think when we focus on where we're partnering and where we're trying to achieve the same goal, that clear
Mm.
water that we're trying to get to, we are less likely to run into the rocks, because I honestly don't think there is as much resistance there as we sometimes think there is. That's my opinion from the business
Perfect.
side.
Yep. 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 Agreed. So let's get to a side that there might be a little bit of, but again, I love where this conversation has gone because it's as much the intrepidation or the or the anticipation that I think sometimes is once that clicks for us, we look back at our history, we look back at maybe the way we've worked with the line of business and go, holy cow, I have some undoing to do here in some
Yes.
ways. Because of, as opposed to, I have an opportunity for growth, and I love the word you use, celebration here. Right? Frank Wynn, a dear friend of ours, said I just stopped selling it. I just said, look, this is a better way. I'm going to still give you e-learning. It happens to be this thing called a digital coach now.
Mm-hmm.
And to
Yeah,
your
and
point, the
that's
line of
just semantics, right? Right.
right, and the line of business didn't really care.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to qualify because he had said e-learning to date.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted some because that was the anticipation. But so he, as opposed to let's redefine, let's go deeper, let's let's go down that dark hole. He's like, look, nope, I'm the learning professional, new learning coming along. You're gonna love it when you see it, and they let it go.
Right.
Right.
And this is
So
the
this is
best way
L&D.
to do it. And we know that. We know that this is the best way to do it, right? And
So
so that's our job.
there is this L&D adjustment as a industry.
Hmm.
Right. And you mentioned, and again, you've walked hand in hand with folks in this, been a part of training folks with this and helped organizations understand. You mentioned 6 areas that you thought of working through to get to this growth celebration next thing that will help us do this better mentality. You want to walk us through what you find those to be?
Okay. Okay. So I do think they're kind of they're sort of generic things that work with any time that you're trying to help people make a change. So I don't think there's anything earth-shattering here, but I think the first one is, and we say this a lot, is meet people where they are. And that involves a lot of listening. It involves listening to what is it that they need? What are
Mm-hmm.
their concerns? And then responding to what you're hearing as opposed to your own idea of where you think they should be. And listening, I don't know, like everybody's grandmother probably told them they have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? You're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk. And that idea of trying to change people's mind, it doesn't work. But when
Yep.
you listen to people, you can address their concerns. And
Mm-hmm.
then they can change their own minds when their own fears are allayed or their concerns are addressed, or they see the value of something to
Yep.
themselves. So that's the first one, is listening and meeting people where they are. I think the second one is educating the L&D department or whoever is in L&D in your organization on the business challenges. Stop making us such, an isolated academic pursuit, right? If we are, and this is why I was upfront straight about this, is that I have never actually been part of an internal L&D department. I've always come in from the outside as a consultant. So maybe I don't know some of the difficulties that are there. But if the L&D department is not partnered with the business and understanding what those business challenges are, then L&D is a support, right? How are you going to support the rest of the
Yep.
business if you don't understand what their problems are? You don't understand their language. You don't understand what keeps them up at night. So I think making an effort to make sure that there's more integration, even if it has to be one way, even if the line of
Mm-hmm.
business doesn't want L&D people in their meetings, you give the L&D people though insights into, like, these are the reports that are coming out of finance, and this is what's coming out of whatever department is having a problem. Just give them access to that. So that's the second one. This third one is supporting those L&D practitioners with tools, and we have lots of tools in 5 Moments of
Mm-hmm.
Need. I mean, just the certificate course and the way it helps people think through that mindset shift to performance, the way we train people to do a rapid workflow analysis. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's like an incredible tool. Just like, you never look at things you don't ever do another like initial interview with a prospective client. Once you've done our RWA, you look at things differently, you think about it differently, you ask different questions, and it gives you, I think I said at the beginning, like, I was always asking slightly different questions anyway, but this gave me the tool to know this is how you ask them, and this is why you ask them, because this is what you're going to get when you phrase things a little bit differently. When you ask to do what, let's remember Carol, she used to always say, to do what, right? Like, and that,
Yeah.
right? So that you tell me I need to know that. Why? To do what? Why do I need to know that information? Just kind of constantly asking. So there's those kind of tools. And we have like a lot of other tools that we offer throughout this process that we use that help us to organize our thinking and move forward that way. So making sure that our practitioners have those tools, and then empowering them to make choices. So, I mean, like you said, we are the professionals, we're the learning and development professionals. And it's not the fact that, what is that expression about when you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail? Like, it's not the
Yep.
case that everything is like that. This is the answer to every problem that's going to come down the pike. Sometimes it is better to do a simple, it's a marketing communication, for example, like a simple
Mm-hmm.
video. Like, you don't need
Mm-hmm.
a full blown 5 moments solution if you have a communication problem. So it's empowering the L&D practitioners to make those choices is that's the fourth one. The fifth one on my list is giving opportunities for growth through experiential learning. And I think this is
Mm,
like, this is really, this is why you can't change people's minds by telling them. People
yep.
have to experience it. And the people that have made that mindset shift have made it because they have experienced
Yep.
something that was like,
Yep.
wow, this changed everything for me, right? And
Hmm.
you can talk about it all the time and it's very inspirational, but it doesn't really happen inside another person until they experience it. So giving opportunities to the L&D practitioners as well as to the people that they're working with to experience that this is a different way, this is a way that works. Just allowing them to have that experience. And finally, I think going along with that is allowing them to fail safely.
Mm,
They're allowing them to
mm.
practice and fail safely. And this is, this is our whole critical impact of failure analysis, right? So if we need to allow our learners to fail safely, but we also need to allow our L&D practitioners to fail safely. So I have to say, I did not feel super safe when I did the certificate course and I was given this project. And this project, it didn't occur to me that I could fail at this project. And I was
Hmm.
really felt like I was drowning for a while, and I was very frightened, but I guess I had some grit and some gumption or something and I pushed through it. But I ended up like having to reverse engineer some things and figure some things out by myself that it might have been better to have a little bit of support. But what was really the impact of failure? I don't know. I probably made it bigger in my mind than it
Hmm.
was. And I
Hmm.
learned a lot by doing it that way. So I think it's a really good idea to give people an opportunity to, cut their teeth on some things that it's not such a, there's not so much riding on it, and allow people to do that.
I love that. It's funny, we come from such a proud pedigree, and we do know the importance of what we do. And so I think we put a bit of extra pressure or burden on ourselves for it to be perfect, and the fear of leaving training because it is the devil we know. And we can check the box. We can put people through it. We can check completion. We can do a little maybe pre or post assessment. And there's a I did something in the practicality of those things. But to your point, I think we do have to give ourselves some grace in guiding an organization through this the first time and on our own. I have found when starting with RWA, people are quite collegial, collaborative about the process going forward and don't mind bumps in the road,
Right,
or
because
you know what I mean?
everybody's on the same, you're all on the train together, like you get everybody. I mean, I really feel like so much of what happens in that RWA is about the facilitation
It
of the
is.
conversation. It's not about that, and I really hammer on that scope statement at the beginning because, it's not just words in a format.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's not just fill in the blanks. It is the conversation that gets you there, that gets everybody on the same page.
Yep. And I think once they're all involved in that, I have found them to be remarkably open
Hmm.
and collegial. Again, I go back to that about, no one left my needs analysis in the old days really caring what happened next. They
Right.
they kind of, appreciated the day and hoped I got a lot out of it and that it was going to help me make my course. When
Hmm.
I shift to RWAs, it was always, so what's next? How can I help? What are you going to make with this now? Can I take a look at it? Can I see? That's a very different and safer, frankly, place for us to wander into to maybe have a little bit of that safe failure that we can have. So Don, let's wrap this up with this. Obviously, it's all about the learner in the end. We hope we build something that's helpful.
Right.
They've been taught to learn since K, as we say in the States, kindergarten for your international listeners, that you go to a place to do it. You stand in front of an expert to do it a lot. That's schooling, training when they get into the workplace. Even some undoing there, if you will, to embrace. And I think we were just talking about it, the courage or the gumption. I wanted to use one of your words you used earlier as the learner to, because in the end they're safe failing or maybe not every day, with or without us. So is there any advice about bringing them along? We hear a lot about breaking habits and passive learners and, why are we making this shift? When's the next class kind of thing? Any advice around helping them with the journey?
So I'm glad you brought it to the learner at the end. And I actually, like, 5 moments, we've kind of trained not to call them learners anymore. We're always talking about the
Right.
performer, right?
Performer.
I got that learner word like stricken from my vocabulary. You're supposed to be talking about the
Yeah.
employee, or however you call that employee, the performer, right? But in the end, I think you said something a few minutes ago about somebody used to be, I created something, I made something, I made a course, right? You could
Yep.
point to that. But I think for me, what resonates most is not did I create something, but did I help somebody?
Mm,
Did I serve somebody? And so I might have created something beautiful or something long or something that was like, I something even from an analytical perspective that was super organized where it wasn't organized before. You take this like massive amount of stuff, and but was it really useful? Did it help
mm,
somebody? So that's kind of like one thing that I'm thinking about when we bring it back to the learner. In terms of helping them, I question everything all the time. So I kind of question your premise, and I don't know the answer to this, that are we still really in that place where everybody expects passive learning? Because I think about the younger people, we're old, right? So like I think about like younger people that are so used to, like, they Google everything, right? Everything, the answer
yep.
to every question is right at their fingertips. And that's wonderful in some ways, especially
Yep.
when information changes rapidly. But if you can't organize that information in some way that, I mean, you don't know what answer you're getting when you Google stuff, right? So you don't know if
Yep.
it's relevant to your work. You don't know, what's most current. You don't know if it,
Hmm.
it just, there's too many unknowns there. So I feel like maybe what we're doing is that we are creating some rails around what people are learning so that we can focus them on the performance and making sure that they get the information, that what they're getting is relevant to the actual thing that they're doing, because they're used to being able to look up the answer right now when I need it. That part is like, I feel like especially younger people, that's how they think about things. So when we curate it for them in a digital coach, for example, it allows them the freedom to explore down the pyramid when they're ready, at the same time giving them the information they need right now to do their job. How do I do this? That information is there, and it's not out there in Google. It's what was curated for them in their role in their company. It's customized, right? But it also allows them the kind of this freedom to explore as they will. And that, as adult learners, that's kind of what people are going to do anyway. So I feel like we're still giving them structure, but we're giving them a different, it comes back to my original premise of, we're not organizing content and topics and knowledge. We are
Right.
organizing around the workflow and the structure that they need in order to do their job.
I once was talking this through with guests we've had on here before, Mark Wagner, and he's like, people just use stuff that's helpful.
Right.
And so we often get asked, how do you make them use it? How do you know if they're using it? How do you, it's like, but again, I think that's kind of a fallback on the consumption content mentality,
Mm-hmm.
not the, well, if it's helpful, they'll come back. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. I think it is innate to self-serve. The generations clearly are doing it better with what they have in their hands and fingertips. We put them in this box too often in the world that we bring them into, in, if I make corporate training sometimes. And so there's a disconnect. And I think there's a real aha and familiarity with building these and making them available. So, hey, great job, Donna, as always. So much of this is so innate to you. I don't know if it's your analytic background or not coming from L&D, but you're really a remarkable practitioner. And I so appreciate the insights that you always share and the remarkable work that you do. So thanks so much for taking time being with us
Well,
today.
thank you for chatting with me. It was fun.
As always, thanks, Donna. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Well, that's it for this episode of the 5 Moments of Need Performance Matters series. We look forward to future conversations around how to best put the 5 moments of need into practice. We welcome your feedback and can be reached on Twitter using my Twitter handle at BMOSH, as well as our 5 Moments of Need website, which is www.5momentsofneed.com. We hope you're finding these helpful and will subscribe to future episodes. Have a great day, friends.